Thank you. And next I will move to Professor Paloma. So she pointed towards the need for, agility, the space with which you respond to certain change. It is a fast changing labor market. Demands are changing fast. The kind of skills that you are looking for is also changing. And our study also showed that faculty expertise as well as, the ability to respond to that, but also very creatively use that partnership. It's not only about a partnership with industry, but how you use that, how you foster that, how you negotiate, that also matters. And how you do it for various aspects of a course delivery, which you would anyway know better. So how do you look at it? What has been your experience? Would you like to share some?
Thank you very much. So this is a very complex problem, and so we look at this in various ways. So one of the things that the University of Guyana has done in the last 2 or 3 years, I'm very sorry that we didn't respond to this questionnaire. If it's open again, I'll respond. But we created an app that's called UG Recruit. And UG Recruit is, it's basically an employment matching kind of application so that persons looking for people to work can go there, place their app, their jobs, and the students then are able to get these jobs. And then we extended it to our alumni, which is about 75,000 people around the world. So we're using technology in a certain kind of a way. But the real question is really not only about how we connect persons to jobs that already exist. Because the problem that we're going to see in the future is that these jobs might actually be reduced more based on robotics, automation, etc. So the problem is really how to ensure that there is work for everyone and that they're enabled to do the work that they wish to do, and that they're plugged in to do whatever needs to be done and what they want to do. So a lot of the work that we're also doing is putting students together as entrepreneurial groups to build their businesses through our School of Business as well. So for instance, opening up our curriculum for medical students to take courses in business, for instance, has seen quite a number of them go into creating businesses that have to do with medicine, etc. So that's another thing that we've been doing. Also, with regard to the question of how we deal with business, this is something, I used to be Deputy Vice Chancellor before I became Vice Chancellor for philanthropy and the civic engagement. And that civic engagement side was the side that was outward facing, that dealt with business, that dealt with the marketing of the university, etc. And I found that this was a very interesting space for a vice chancellor to step into afterwards, because building those relationships requires someone who not only has a particular kind of background and training and maybe embeddedness in the community, but also someone who is dedicated completely to creating these relationships, not only creating them, maintaining them, and growing them. And also, we also do, on the research side, we do work for industry in terms of research about what they want. And so when we do that, we are able to kind of get an insight and head start into what it is that we can provide for them. And then the last piece, I think the most important piece, because we are a state university, and state universities have some particular constraints or opportunities depending on what's going on and how we're able to manage them. And so the university administration at the level of the council, that interface with the government is very, very significant, because a lot of times the faculty will want to do things, but when you get up to that point, they kind of don't understand it or they block it or something. So really, I think in terms of getting the nimbleness that we need in the universities, it's to make sure that those councils are chosen with the utmost care and that they can actually respond and are empowered to help us to do what we want to do. And I don't know how much control we have over that, but as much influence that we can exert over that level, I think it's important. So it's a multidimensional approach.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you. And I think it's important, certain things. As it happens that all the vice chancellors sitting here are actually state public university vice chancellors, and therefore, there are things that perhaps they are dealing with. There are similar kind of constraints and enablers. But two important things that came, one is of relationship. So it's not a like one-off thing. You build relationships and you choose and then work on that. And other is that even in the comprehensive sets of skills for an individual and not necessarily in isolation, one set and one kind. So those are important bits. So I'll move to you, Professor Sharath. And for you, I have this question, especially in the context of universities. When you talk of skill education, that's one thing that one hears, that universities are meant for knowledge creation, and skill building is not our job. And now I don't think universities have that freedom to say that. There is a huge responsibility that you have to respond to this need. Now, how do you look at this, the need for the balance of labor market responsiveness, while also without losing the whole issue of critical thinking or civic engagement in that process?
It's a tall order, but let me see what I can. So let me contextualize this to particularly my university, which is a public university in the south of India. It's in a semi-rural, peri-urban, semi-rural, other kind of students we gather. Often the skill sets that are required of the students come from demands largely from the service sector industry. Computer skills, for example, in the chemistry, in the chemical industry, there are quality control officers that you need. They need to use a particular kind of machine and know how to use it well. Now, it's our duty, I think, to respond to such needs by not isolating these skill sets as such, but embedding them within the larger course. For example, a person who wants to know about how a particular machine works that can be used in chemical quality control ought to be studying chemistry. It's not enough that you just train him or her in this particular thing, because once the need goes beyond that, you're left with no other skills. So I think skills need to be embedded within coursework. And this is, after all, our business. We are a university that teaches philosophy, physics, mathematics, masters in business administration, so on and so forth. So I think it's useful to see what are the scalable things within the philosophy. I think has a lot of scalable components there. Critical thinking is itself a skill that can be taught. So I think that must happen. So, but often the demands of the industry outside are not so long-term. They just want you to be able to do some small thing. So I think as a university, it's also our responsibility to spawn such new ventures by incubating centers that create knowledge-based skill sets, skills that need you to know more than just a small component of it. As far as soft skills go, which is another thing, I feel that soft skills are not just those that you learn to, handle others, and they are embedded in the liberal arts. I think a good liberal arts education, poetry, things like this actually teach you about how to, interact. So I think those are intangible skills, but I think they form a very important component, because today we are of a tendency to think that those don't have any value and push them away. So I think these are useful reminders to ourselves too. Yeah.
Thank you. I think 2 points you made. One is reinforcing the points that Professor Paloma was making, that don't look at things in isolation. It's part of a whole, and that's how you treat them as disciplines or as a course. Another point I thought you are hinting at is that skills is not separate from academics. It has to be part, and I think that's an important point for us engaged in the business of education, because often what happens that skills education is also, there is also a hierarchy, and it's seen as if it's, the academics is superior to skills, whereas if it's integrated and it's seen as an extension and actually, something that reinforces each other, then there is a different perception, and that calls for a different language, rather than, the change in language. So when poetry is, or philosophy is also seen as a skill, then it also requires for a different language, which I think we have experts who perhaps have engaged or would like to talk about. So I will move to Professor Sanjeev next. And one thing that is emerging, especially in the context of public universities, but also private universities, because regulation is something that applies to them as well. And in our survey also it emerged as an important thing, is the rigidity, whether it's accreditation or certain other flexibility that is needed, but very, very difficult to have that. You also referred to that. So how do you look at that as a barrier in this whole issue of promoting skills-based education in universities? And what reforms or incentives do you think will make a difference? Professor Sanjeev.
Yeah, thank you. In fact, I will take a threefold approach to it, just to give you an idea with respect to curriculum development, to address the employability skills, to address the curriculum development which responds to labor market exigencies. As mentioned by my predecessors, we have also advisory boards where we have policymakers, captains of the industry who have their representatives, before we develop a curriculum to ensure the necessary viability of this program, the academic program, whether it's going to meet the requirements of the market. That's something very important to develop, particularly the competencies. We know that the technical knowledge is there. As an academic institution, we've got enough quality assurance standards that we need to respect. But at the same time, we have to care for the employability, right? Now, this employability, when you develop a curriculum, you rightly mentioned it has to go through an accreditation process. In Mauritius, in the context of Mauritius, we have got the Higher Education Commission, which is the overarching entity that overlooks all the process to ensure that, well, the same degree is offered by 2 universities. However, the level is reached, the level is attained, and we will be able to respond to the learning outcomes appropriately. It takes some time. We have been able at the university, my university, University of Mauritius, which is going to be around 60 years this year, that we have reviewed all the programs because the curriculum, as you know now, is dynamic. We used to be, just to give you a little historical background, that when the university was founded in 1965, it was called a developmental university, which means that, like many other universities, after having been, decolonized, so the aim was to help the country in terms of its structural reforms. So what was a college of agriculture specialized in sugar technology today is developed into a full-fledged university with 7 faculties, including medicine, digital technologies, etc., that goes all along with the structural reforms that the country has gone through. So the accreditation process is something which is very important in terms of leveraging the quality with internal universities, across internal universities in the country, but also responding to the international standards, because you have our graduates who are also employed in foreign organizations, or you have international students that come and follow our programs. So we need to have that parity. So this is set within the university itself, but the overarching idea as the accreditation is something which is done. But recently, the High Commissioner of Higher Education Commissioner is with us, so might give some later on. I mean, we can always talk about it. Some new developments in terms of each university now will have its own accreditation process. So you don't have to apply to that. It's within, but obviously the criteria will be developed by that organization to ensure that, well, you have to tick that, you're responding to what the market needs. So this is about, the technical aspect. But in between, I have to tell you, we ensure that all programs have to have the skill-based knowledge. Placements, internships. These were confined to professional programs like medicines and engineering. But today, from 3 weeks to 8 weeks, they are all across. All across the university, we have to ensure that sometimes students look for their placements, abandon criteria that we provide, or we have a university industry liaison office, which ensures that each and every student actually has to have their interns. This is something very, very essential, which we try to do. Sometimes it's challenging, you would see, for humanities, because otherwise those who are training to become teachers, it's not so easy as somebody who would like to become is becoming an engineer or a doctor. But still, we are trying to fine-tune there. This is about the technical, the aspects, in addition to the knowledge which is required. But at the same time, we do have job fairs.
Yeah, I'll ask you to.
Okay.
Yeah.
Job fairs which are organized, and that is also something where we invite the private sector to come on campus if ever they want to recruit students, to recruit those who want to do their interns. They can do that to ensure employability.
Yeah,
Right.
thank you. So he provided a few examples of reforms. So we will move to Professor Ami Upadhyay now. And I would, there is something Jako was talking about. We also tried to explore that in our survey, was about inclusion and equity. And then how do you address that? Especially when it comes to the issue of technology and hybrid delivery and underrepresented groups, be it women, be it, in different contexts, it could be different kinds of groups, but there are groups. Then how do you, see that as an opportunity, and what are the limits? Especially from the perspective of an open university you can talk about, and of course, a public open university. Yes.
Thank you very much. Before I respond exactly this question, because that's associated with National Education Policy 2020, and with that National Curriculum Framework, credit framework that India has come up with. There are certain very strong recommendations that we have introduced there. First is that be it humanities, social science, anywhere, internship is mandatory. And mandatory credits for skills and vocational. That is for school also, for the universities also. When matter comes to open university, using technology and making it more inclusive, professor of practice will be there. So people from the industry will be appointed as professor of practice. And that can be, they can be appointed across the nation or across the maybe state, as we are state open universities. When matter comes to skill trainings, we have skill centers. Wherever we have regional centers, everywhere we have 312 learner support centers. And in open universities, every district will have certain skill centers. So we have tied up with those skill centers and we have been training them. More than that, we have introduced at a university, for example, many universities have been doing, we have established a 3 special learner center that works for transgenders, sex workers, HIV positive, jail inmates, and disabled. So we have ensured it there. In the prisons also, we've established skill centers. And we have been trying to include people at periphery, those people also in the skill training. We've been doing that also. Under the choice-based credit system, we have tied up with other conventional universities where they have been opting for our skill courses also. So this is what we have been doing.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Before opening it to the audience for one quick round, I think one important thing perhaps, and again, you would be a better judge, but I have been there as a researcher also for quite some time. And what I feel that many of these things exist. It's not a question of existing, and still it's not leading to what you want. And therefore, how you do that matters. And if you really want to see the results and a transformation. And that, I think, is something that remains a challenge. In most countries, we see a development in terms of having a framework, and yet you do not see the desired shifts that one would like to see. And therefore, I think the remaining challenges are there. So I will like to open it, and perhaps it will help if Dr. Jako also comes and joins in case there is some question on your presentation, Jako. So open for questions. My request will be that be brief, be precise in your question, very clear, so that we can, quickly take it and have our group of experts here, vice chancellors, to respond. And help me, my colleagues, please help me identify if I can't see them clearly. And our colleague, Dean, is here with a mic, and he will help you. So please raise your hand if you have a question. Okay, yeah.
It was very good to listen to so many people, but my specific question is, when we talk about inclusion and equity, the primary thing that comes is in terms of gender. How do we, because again, when looked at the stereotypical approach to skills training, how are we addressing or how are we proposed to address it?
Thank you. Any other?
Thank you very much. I'm Enoch Asimwe, Acting Coordinator, Center for Open and Distance Education, Baisawa University. My question goes to the Vice Chancellor, University of Guyana. I do appreciate an effort you have come up with, even to create an app named UG, University of Guyana, Recruit or Recruitment. That is something very good in an effort to collaborate with the industry. I request you please to share with us the experience to us here in the audience. What lessons have you learned from that? And what do you think even us here in our respective universities we can learn from that experience, and what other, I might say, advice you might share with us, given the experience you have gone through? Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other? Do we have more? Okay, then we will end with this last question from the audience.
Thank you.
Somebody?
I'm on your right side. Or left side? Here.
Oh, okay, we'll come to you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
I'm Dr. Zahid Majid. I'm working as educationist at Allama Iqbal Open University, Pakistan. Really appreciate all the panelists. They're doing great job for the skill development that's required in all over the world, means Open University especially. The recent trends that shows us that the universities are looking for the students. In Pakistani context, we lost about 20% of our students in higher education. I'm not saying that drop out or other things. They are going to somewhere else, and somewhere else that we are talking today. That is a micro-credentials and skill developments and short courses. We as open universities, we think that these courses and these micro-credential skill development courses required means hands-on practice on a particular skill development workshops or training centers. But things are changed now. The students don't have time to go to over there, but they are very much engaged with VR and AR and many other technologies. So as a university in distance learning, we should think about all these things. In 2014, I have a very good experience in Shanghai Open University. They are doing a great job and very good example that we have over there. So I think we should think about all these things rather than to having the hands-on practice. Yes, that's important. But other things, no, that's more important for students. We should having in mind and develop the skill development courses for them. Good examples, undergraduate and postgraduate, must have internship, capstone projects, all these things that's the students required nowadays. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Okay. Okay, so I assume there is one more, that side? Yeah. Okay, so this will be the last.
Thank you very much. I am Professor Yaro Lovelin from the University of Buea, Cameroon, and I am in curriculum studies and teaching. My worry is about the issue of curriculum development, market economy, employability, and quality assurance. And sometimes we see that we start comparing our students to workers who are not trained, maybe mechanics in the workshops, and because they have the skills. Then when we come back to the classroom, we say that we should be able to teach the skills that are needed in the workplace. Then we take away the conceptual, the theoretical, the thing that makes you understand why it is important for this to happen. Then we take it away, and we see that, yes, when you go to the market, you see the people doing the things. But the issue of this critical thinking, these problem-solving skills are lacking. So what I'm trying to say is that while we concentrate on what the market needs, we should also come back as curriculum developers to ensure quality, the kinds of skills, competencies that should be needed. After all, policies, decisions are made in the universities for them to be implemented at the workplace. I am seeing that it's becoming where it's the cat that directs the horse. We put the cat in front of the horse, and that's a problem I have with the issue of employability. I don't know how we can solve that. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So 4 questions have come, and rather than, passing those 4 questions to one each, I will, so one relates to gender, especially in the context of gender stereotyping. One relates to a particular example that is addressed to you, Professor Paloma. But I will say that also suppose you interpret as anything innovative if you have done, so that example. The third is about, thinking more from the perspective of future and, looking at that, bringing those rather than thinking in terms of particular existing ways of opening up. And the fourth is, again, a question I think we did try to bring up earlier, is the issue of why are we bothered? Why don't we focus on critical? And that, in my understanding, comes from the belief that if we are focusing on that, then that is going to, be missed. And therefore, there is there is a divide, and it cannot be integrated. So if I take those 4 and ask you all to think about, not that all of you have to address all 4, but you can choose and respond. And in addition, as you are aware, that we as a grouping, Commonwealth, we do work very strongly through our advocacy with ministers and heads of governments. For us, it has been a very important tool, and we have several ministers attending our PCF, and Commonwealth also has education ministers meeting, which we think will be scheduled next year, and heads of governments meeting that Fariba was referring to. So it's important that we, take certain key advocacy matters to them. So from that perspective, if you have a message that you think we can carry from you to them, think of that also. So with that, these 4 questions, and with that, I will request all of you to respond. And maybe this time I will start from the other side. So I'll start with you, Professor Ami. And time, I won't say this much, but just try to be brief and precise, yeah.
Many times I would say that tailor-made customized courses are very important. At Open University we have tried. As CSR responsibility, the internship, the industry is not ready to accept. So I think that would work if we invite industries to help us in developing. When it comes to gender stereotype, things are changing a lot. I would say things are changing a lot. And especially in industry, when we see, when we started, I would say that a man running in the market, before the fashion changes, I want to show the clothes. That's what is happening with the skills also. But why I witness in the industry is that wherever earlier the men were required, now the industries are telling we would prefer to have women. So that has been changing. But with the rural area, still, we need to work on it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Professor Sanjeev?
Yeah, thank you. I will try to answer the question asked by the lady, the last person who intervened. In terms of when we talk of market economy, yes, but at the same time, we should remember market imperfections, right? Sometimes we tend to put, a lot in the basket of public universities because these are universities funded out of taxpayers' money. So there is that kind of belief that we have to do everything, even what the private sector requires, what the market requires. We should have graduates. We time and then get, these criticisms that, well, whatever we do is there's a mismatch in terms of the skills in the market. But I would agree that, well, we might perceive it as a trade-off, but I can share this example with you, that when we have the required learning outcomes and competencies embedded in our credit system, and there is an accreditation process, so we ensure that the knowledge which is imparted to the students, to market-ready graduates, is ensured. This is very important from the academic perspective. But at the same time, we have a duty in terms of our employability. So where do we fit it? Because sometimes 3 years is a lapse of time when a student, it's a contract between the university and the student embarking, let's say, on a degree, a BSc economics degree, which is 3 years. In 3 years' time, things keep changing. And universities, that's our challenges today, with emerging technologies, with AI, with all sorts of challenges. So we have to adapt very quickly. So just to give you an example from the Faculty of Agriculture, for instance, because students need those skills in addition to the knowledge. So the traditional or conventional degree, which was 3 years, becomes 3.5 years. So the final year is dedicated to that. So that would be one way. I don't say that we need to adapt to, everybody should adopt that kind of degree program, but just to give you an example on this. Either the credit system has to be revisited to emphasize on competencies and learning outcomes, but skills are also important, right? So that's important. Thank you.
Sharath?
I'd also like to take up the question that you so very nicely put across. I couldn't do it myself, but I mean exactly what, I think it's, curriculum development is so important because somewhere, the industry sometimes demands very short-term requirements from us, but it's not for us then to go on and start refashioning our courses, saying, okay, let's throw away this, let's put in this, because that's the new thing in demand. Our strategy must be to try and see how in core learning we can embed, skillable things. In other words, something that you learned is likely to become redundant tomorrow. It's not enough. For example, let me draw your attention to something that's happening in our undergraduate computer science. A lot of colleges in India are throwing away the core learning because new industry wants them to learn certain skill sets, Python programming and so on. So systems programming has been put aside apparently. And now there's suddenly a need for going back to the core learning because newer demands require you to have your fundamentals right. So I think while industry comes up with short-term demands, and we should be having a ear to their demands, it's important for us to really be careful on how we include them into our curricular development. So she's absolutely right. I couldn't agree more with what you're saying. Thank you.
Thank you. Professor Paloma.
Hello. Yeah. Thank you. I'll try to answer the question on the UG Recruit as well as agenda and the kind of future of what we have to do very quickly. So UG Recruit, we could meet afterwards. I can share, the URL with you. That's been very successful. We only did it like 2.5 years ago. And really, we were first online because we used to do these job fairs. And when COVID came, we were looking for ways in which we could still continue doing what we did. And so it has kind of forced us into the kind of online virtual space. We give this as a free service to persons, businesses that support the university. But if you don't support the university, sometimes we charge you a subscription fee per year. And so persons find it a lot easier to donate something to the university, to give an internship, a practicum, etc., to get this kind of access. And it's not only for current students, we also link our alum to this. So persons who have come out of the university can also get jobs. It's been fairly successful because Guyana's economy is an anomaly in the world right now. It's growing faster than most economies because of some particular resource finds that have been there. So we have a different problem. With regard to the gender issue and I must say that to create the app, it was very, very easy. Our computer sciences department created it. And I have someone in my office that I employed. I have one person who is a computer programmer, and 2 interns who are students who work on everything that I want to get done outside of the computer science, the tactical online services unit in the university. They work directly with me to get what I want done quickly, and that's really important. And we use a lot of students to get these things done. In terms of gender, I think again, at the University of Guyana, we have more female staff and more female students. And across the Caribbean, I think this is the case. However, anytime you want somebody to be involved in something, you have to incentivize their education. So what we do is if we want boys, for instance, or girls to go into something, we either offer them a scholarship, we offer them something that allows them, we go into the schools, we recruit. This has to be a very intentional series of actions that are taken and followed through, and the resources from anywhere has to go with them. So it's just trying to figure out what the conditions are on the ground. And finally, with regard to the gentleman who spoke about the future and these virtual spaces and tools that we have, I honestly believe that we're at a kind of a very, very significant crossroads in higher education. And I believe that we might be seeing the death of the university as we know it. Not in a bad way, but I think there's a very significant set of transformations that have to happen. And maybe we're not getting to where we want to get because we're asking the wrong question. We're asking a question of how do we create people for industry when nobody really knows what the industry is going to be about. We need to ask the question of how do we help people actualize and create an education for living. And so when we do that, they then could find the ways to plug themselves in to do whatever they want. They want to go to industry, they want to create things for themselves, etc. We have been experimenting with a platform called Alpha, which is a gaming technology, which we're deploying exactly for this, for skills training, for people who have to do repetitive tasks. So you want to teach a plumber how to connect this to this to this, and those kinds of things. So really, that's where I think education is going to go. It has to go there because that's the world that the young people are living in, whether we like it or not.
Thank you.
I think the comments made by Paloma here have made my life much easier, because I do think that universities, as we have known them, as we have conceptualized them, are really facing a very difficult time. I don't know whether to say they are facing an existential threat as they are, you know, or not, but definitely there's a need for transformation. And that transformation is not only the university themselves, but even just the regulatory system. Because you might want to come up with stackable micro-credentials to cater for, you know, people that do not have time to come and do a whole 3-year or 4-year degree and so on. But if you don't have that in your regulatory frameworks, that is a problem. I think even now, at some point, we did the rounds with industry to go and introduce ourselves as a new university and to establish what they really need. And yes, they come up with, oh, we need data analytics, we need this, we need that, we need that. But you know that that's going to take a bit of time to develop, although of course there are open educational resources that we don't even really adopt in a very systematic way that would make our lives that much easier. But even if you did, you still have to contend with the regulators who will take their time. There's a framework. That framework is rigid. You know, it's very difficult for you to do that. So universities are stuck between a rock and a hard place, in my view. And this issue of, you know, skills, employability skills, it's been a debate for a very long time. Universities have tried to embed the skills in the teaching, you know, critical thinking and problem solving, the soft skills that we talk about. But still, you get this narrative of skills gap, mismatch, and everything like that. And then when you actually do talk to industry, I'm not sure that they themselves know what they want. This is the thing. I'm not really sure that they know what they want. So it's just become that narrative. But I think what is very clear is people don't have the time to be doing whole degrees. So we need to provide, for those that do, we need to provide that. And for those that do not, we need to go the micro-credential way, and we need to influence policy such that it is easy for us to do that. The issue of gender and all of that, I think we are fortunate at the university, the Botswana Open University, because when we look at our student profiles, they're more female than male that take up the opportunities. So that in itself is a good thing. I just want to, yes, I also wanted to speak to the open university advantage that we are quite silent about, but I think we need to bring it out. Most of the students, at least in the case of Bo, are working. And in that way, what we are doing is trying to enhance their skills. And it's a good, the fact that they're working offers a very good lab, if you like, because what they learn, they plow back into what they're doing. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for, the very, I'll say, engaging, wonderful thoughts. And such discourses are never meant to provide solutions. They are meant to provide thoughts for future discussions and add to the discourse that's out there relating to such topics. And that, I think, we got ample. And I'm not going to summarize, but there are some main messages. And of course, everyone, when you pick up what you want to pick up. So there could be that process working, but I consciously am not trying to do that. But I think some important messages are that one has to know the landscape, and industry is an important part of that, but need not be guided by the narrow vision that industry or the industries might have. So understand them, work with them, but don't rush and don't lose your own long-term vision. So that's an important thing. And second is that landscape is not only about industry, landscape is about everything, about funding, about all the new changes that are happening. I think we didn't talk about political economy, but that's also as important as the technology that's changing. So be aware of that and then work on that. And of course, you went into specifics that I won't go into. But one thing I feel that the issue of gender remained a little unexplored here, especially because, having more female students is not necessarily transforming the societies. And therefore, what we call change itself is an issue, and I'll leave it at that. And thank you. But before closing, I want to, I missed when I was talking about team. From ACU side, there has been a very close engagement with a team member who I forgot to mention and who is also not here. He's Brendan. And it's important to mention his name because I mentioned the rest of the team. So that's what formed our team. And we will be working on the analysis. We will be writing a report. We have actually very rich data, including some qualitative data. And we also intend following up this with a few case studies. And therefore, we will be in touch with all of you who have, also contributed to this process. Thank you. And with that, if there is any announcement, I would request my colleagues to come here and do that announcement. Oh, you are here. Here is Anna. Yeah.
Thank you, Jyotsna. Let's have another round of applause for our panel. Thank you very much. So we're going to move on into our presentation to our call honorary fellows, but we need to do a little bit of management of the stage. So we're just going to take a 10-minute break. If you want to stand up, move your legs, grab some water, please do that. We'll just rearrange the stage, clear away some of the chairs. If you're involved in the next session, please come forward towards the stage. Otherwise, relax, take a few minutes, and we'll be back with you shortly. Thank you very much. Thank you to our panel.